If you are placed on a performance improvement plan, the most dangerous assumption you can make is believing that this process exists to help you recover trust, repair credibility, or meaningfully reverse decisions that were already made without your participation. Most professionals hear the word improvement and instinctively assume that increased effort, stricter discipline, closer cooperation, and visible compliance can still reset the situation and guide their career back towards stability, an assumption that feels logical based on historical rewards. For years, the professional world reinforces the idea that performance problems are temporary and that dedication can correct setbacks. But a performance improvement plan does not appear in environments where trust still exists. It appears only after trust has already been withdrawn. By the time this document reaches you, the organization is no longer asking whether you can succeed in the long term, but how your continued presence can be managed with minimal disruption, which is why PIPs rarely feel truly collaborative. The vocabulary may sound developmental and procedural, but the underlying logic has already shifted away from growth toward containment and outcome control. At this stage, the organization is investing in reducing uncertainty, operational risk, and future liability associated with your role. That shift is subtle because the language of improvement continues to be used even after the internal decision. Making context has fundamentally changed. Once improvement language appears without genuine trust behind it, it stops functioning as guidance and begins functioning as documentation. This is where confusion begins because you believe you are being evaluated for recovery, while the system is evaluating you for manageability and predictability. From your perspective, the process feels like a difficult test you can still pass, but that test ended earlier. This disconnect between what you think is happening and what the organization is actually doing is the core structural danger of a performance improvement plan, even though people publicly describe them as fair opportunities to prove commitment and demonstrate accountability. That belief survives because it aligns with the story most professionals are taught about work. But organizations do not introduce formal processes at moments of patience or goodwill. They introduce them when informal tolerance has already been exhausted and ambiguity becomes dangerous. At that point, the system is no longer asking how to help you succeed, but asking how to control the trajectory and limit downstream consequences, which is why the timing of a PIP matters far more than its wording or specific metrics. By the time the process begins, informal conversations have usually already occurred in rooms you were never invited into. Those conversations are not emotional or personal. They are practical discussions focused on risk management, exposure reduction, and organizational predictability. Once those discussions happen, the system's relationship with you changes, even if daily interactions appear unchanged on the surface. This creates a dangerous illusion where you feel included in a process while the organization has already moved ahead structurally. You interpret meetings as checkpoints for recovery while the system treats them as milestones in a controlled separation. A mismatch that explains why many capable professionals feel blindsided when a PIP ends exactly where it began, despite their best efforts. From the inside, the process feels open-ended and conditional, but from the outside, it is often already constrained by assumptions that are never stated explicitly. This is why advice like, just do exactly what they ask, frequently fails to save the job. At this stage, performance becomes evidence rather than leverage, and evidence is collected to justify decisions rather than reverse them. Most people do not recognize this shift in real time because organizations never announce when evaluation stops and liability management begins. Instead, the process continues using familiar language and rituals that disguise the underlying change in intent, which is why many professionals experience disorientation during a PIP, feeling intensely monitored while simultaneously feeling less trusted by the very people evaluating them. The system increases measurement while decreasing tolerance, creating an environment where every action feels consequential but rarely influential. From the organization's perspective, this structure demonstrates procedural fairness regardless of the eventual outcome, shielding them from legal risks. From your perspective, it feels like being asked to run faster on a track that no longer leads anywhere meaningful. This is not a failure of intelligence or professionalism, but a predictable outcome of how large systems protect themselves under uncertainty. Organizations operate like immune systems, identifying elements perceived as unpredictable and initiating protocols designed to isolate and neutralize risk. Once you are flagged, the process prioritizes containment over integration, documentation over dialogue, and predictability over potential. This does not mean every PIP leads to termination, but it does mean the process is no longer neutral or exploratory. At this stage, the organization's incentives are no longer aligned with your long-term success, even if cooperation is encouraged in the short term. Understanding this reality does not require cynicism, paranoia, or emotional interpretation, only structural literacy. A performance improvement plan is best understood not as coaching, but as a controlled transition protocol designed to protect the organization's legal positioning and narrative. That protection includes narrative management and minimizing disruption to leadership credibility, which is why the process often feels simultaneously formal and distant. Recognizing this reality does not mean you have failed. It means you are finally seeing the system without illusion. This video is not here to offer reassurance, motivation, or optimism about navigating the process successfully. It exists to name the mechanism clearly so you can interpret what is happening without self-blame, confusion, or false expectations about the outcome. If you want continued system-level analysis instead of emotional framing, Workplace Strategy Lab exists for that exact purpose. In the next video, we will break down how feedback is weaponized long before a PIP appears and how documentation is quietly constructed.